Hello, loves. It's me, Anjuli, and welcome to the Personally Yours podcast. We have a name, y'all. We finally have a name, and I'm so glad you're here with us. I'm hoping that we can deck out this little area, this little corner of my room, and make it our perfect little corner for these conversations. And today's conversation, actually, before I get there, if you want to help me deck out this room, this is a perfect plug, unplanned, but I have to announce it at some point. I do have a Patreon for the Personally Yours podcast, and we have a Discord server now. We also have specific, I guess they're called channels. I'm still learning about Discord in general, to be honest, but there's specific channels if you want to ask a question and get it answered on the podcast, even if you want to send like voice recordings possibly, and I can play it on the podcast, which I think would be super fun. So if you want to join the Patreon, there's also tons of bonus content like behind the scenes and some articles I will be writing and some journals and whatnot. Please go down to the description box, go down to wherever you're listening to this, go to the more information section. I cannot visualize where any of this is going to be right now, but go down there and join the Patreon, join our Discord. It would be like a giant group chat with all of us in it. And I think it would be so much fun because you all are so nice and pleasant and positive and fun to talk to. And I think that we would all enjoy talking to each other, especially in times when we may feel just a little lonely, a little like we could use a friend. And so, yeah, shameless plug right there. But thank you so much for joining me. What we're going to be talking about today is negative self-talk. And I actually have some notes here. So if you see me pulling up my phone, that's why. We're going to talk about stopping negative self-talk, how to love yourself, and how to stop making it everybody else's responsibility. Because there is absolutely nothing I really kind of detest more than when people make their self-esteem my responsibility. As in, like, they're doing a lot of like put down jokes like, oh, I bet you think I'm such a terrible person. And then you have to go, oh no, you're not terrible. You're not a jerk. Like, it's kind of a pet peeve of mine. So here we are. Let's go. Let's chat. Gonna get comfy on my stool. First thing I'm gonna get is a proper chair and not a stool. And here we go. So today's topic, I mentioned this on all my social media when I decided to change my topic into this topic. It was actually inspired by a tweet by A Divine Femme on Twitter. And she said, I don't do self-depreciating talk. Keep that to yourself. And then I quote tweeted saying, I don't tolerate even jokes. You want to play like that? Go somewhere else. Because me and my house, we talk nice about ourselves. And we really do. Okay, even my sisters know, don't make self-depreciating jokes around me. And I really hope they adopt that into their own lives because, listen, we need to talk about where self-esteem comes from, okay? And the first place it comes from is your home, okay? So I know that there are, especially on TikTok, if you scroll, there'll be a lot of things about parents and a lot of advice for parents. And if you want to discuss your weight in your own private time and not around your kids because it's going to give them a complex. That's where your self-esteem starts, okay? Is when you hear people around you going, why is my kid so freaking loud? Actually, okay? So when my family and me and my sisters and my mom, we took I think it was one of my very first trips, girl trips, and we got to go to a beach house or whatever. And it was like one of my mom's friends' beach houses. And we were staying in the attic, I believe it was. And it was all four of us. And yeah, I have two sisters, my mom, me, all four of us. And we're staying in this attic and it's dark and we're all getting all tucked in, getting all cozy. Okay, the lights are out. We're all getting ready to fall asleep. And my mom has the audacity to go, Simone, why are you breathing so loud? And I had no idea. I never heard that I was a loud breather, okay? And the way I shut up, the way I was like, don't breathe, don't breathe, because in that moment, I gained a complex. And to be honest, to this day, I kind of have a complex about my breathing. I'm very, very nervous. I'm deaf. I don't know how loud I'm breathing. Maybe, I don't know if I'm a mouth breather. I could honestly tell you, I don't know the loudness of my breath. And I don't think I've ever heard anybody else say anything about my breath since then. But like, I was gagged a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little like, I guess I'm done breathing. And that shook my self-esteem a little bit, to be honest. Now, that's not an extreme case of that, but that is, so another thing, like, involving your home is, like, when we were kids, my grandma, bless her heart, she would make spaghetti and lots of spaghetti. I think every Black kid knows about the pot of spaghetti that you were going to be eating for the next several days. And it was literally military rations for no reason whatsoever. My grandma would make the giant pot of spaghetti like that. And then she would serve us these ginormous, and I mean mountains, like, our little heads could barely look over the mounds of pasta on these plates. She would make us these ginormous plates of pasta. And she would always say, I have to make you guys plates this big because you're all bottomless pits. You can eat as much as you want, and then you never gain any weight, which I know she didn't mean any harm by that, but that put a complex of, like, number one, we have to eat all of this food, but number two, we're also expected not to gain any weight when we eat excessive amounts of food, which you can't really control. I mean, you could eat less food, but her food was her love, and we did not want to turn down her love. You don't want to turn down grandma's love. So you don't really have a choice, especially as a kid. And that plays a part into where your self-esteem first comes from. So if the people in your house aren't talking nice, you're probably not going to talk nice too, because those are the first voices that you were internalizing. I bet if you think about some of the voices in your head that are saying some mean things, they probably sound like your dad or your mom. Sorry to call you out like that. Sorry, but they probably do sound like your mom or your dad, or maybe a big sister or a younger sibling. I think about how my brother got mad at me one time, and he was like, because I had to ask him to repeat some stuff, and he's like, well, if you just wore your hearing aids, we wouldn't be having these problems. And to be honest, I internalized it when I was younger. It's not a problem for me now, but that was my brother saying something to me about something that hurt my feelings. If people don't talk, the people in your house don't talk nicely, you are not going to talk nicely. Great thing is, most of you, it seems like most of my audience are adults, you have a little bit more control over that. So the people in your home, whoever that is, your roommates, you, if it's still your parents, if you need to have a conversation, you need to get more comfortable having uncomfortable conversations, but you need to tell people, you don't speak like that around me. And it's not okay. You need to set that boundary, because it's important if you want to be able to gain a little bit of control over your own self-esteem, because that is the first place that is the place where you can almost have the most control, because everything else I'm going to list, you kind of have less control over, unfortunately. But your home, you and your space, you can dictate you and your space, baby. And I implore you to do that, because that is where it's going to start. That is where you're going to learn self-love, because that is where I started to learn self-love. As soon as I told people that were in my home, you are not going to talk this way around me, it got a lot easier. And your home also includes your friends, okay? Because the next thing we're going to talk about is your community, okay? Being the only Black kid in my school meant that I got told a lot, and also I was freakishly tall. I was very tall compared to a lot of people. I got told a lot that I was too dark and I was too tall to date a lot of people, and that hurt my self-esteem a lot too, because then I felt ugly, honestly. And that's my community telling me that I'm ugly. I'm too ugly to be dateable. I'm too ugly. Like, it made me feel a certain way about that. And that hit my self-esteem too. And yeah, unfortunately, I can't tell a whole school not to be racist. I can't tell a whole school not to care that I'm tall. Like, that's just not how that works. So yeah, unfortunately, my community started to affect me, and I had to unlearn that years later. You and your community, they're also going to affect you. So if you can, control where your community is. Obviously, when you're younger, it is harder. But at some point, you're going to have to look around and go, it seems like I hang around a bunch of people that often call themselves trash. Okay? Because my friends and I used to joke around and call each other alcoholics. We used to call each other trash. We used to make all these jokes about, like, how we were just bottom of the barrel women. And where's the joke? I fail to see the joke in that. If you really think that you may be an alcoholic, go get some help. If you really think you may be some trash, go get some therapy. Like there are solutions for these problems that you're joking about. I do not play about these jokes. My community, what I can control in my community, do not make these jokes around me because it is 120% unacceptable. And so your community is something that you have a little bit less control over, but also still some control over. If you notice that you're around people that are constantly calling themselves lazy, that are constantly calling themselves, undeserving, if they're saying, well, I don't deserve men or women or partners like that because I am this, that is going to affect you. If you are not strong enough in your own self-esteem yet, that is going to be something that you are going to internalize too, because you are who you keep. You are who you keep. And I want to be careful in saying that because I do believe that there are exceptions to the rules. Like, I'm not trying to talk about people that are in abuse situations because that is a very real situation. And unfortunately, that's not an easy situation to control at all. That's the whole point. You've lost control. So I'm not talking about that. But in controls where you're not being held hostage and you're not being abused, you are who you keep. Tell those people to either shape up or to go away. Like, you can make different friends. And I know as an adult, it's hard to make friends. Trust me. I know. But isn't it worth it to just make new friends than to be around people that make you feel bad? That make you feel like you are in the dumps for no reason, in the trenches for no reason? No. Okay? And then the third thing that affects your self-esteem is the media. Okay? And this, for me, this is my own passion project, is trying to change the media, trying to put more Black people in places where we're not used to seeing them, like in the Tumblr aesthetic photos and whatnot. Trying to put more deaf people out there in a podcast. Sometimes I ask myself, what business do I have making myself a podcaster when I'm deaf? What business? It's almost a joke that, like, I am doing an audio format as a deaf person, okay. But it is important to me because representation and media is important. If you are having a problem, this is where the Instagram and the social media, all the social media stuff, if you feel like social media doesn't hurt my feeling, doesn't hurt my self-esteem. And you know why? It's because I log off. I control the media. I make sure I only follow people that make me feel good. The minute my eye starts twitching, I immediately either mute or unfollow. And no questions asked. I don't feel guilty about it because I'm protecting me. In a way, your own personal social media is your own home. You can control that. You can control your home, as I mentioned earlier. So unfollow, block, mute, do what you need to do because the most important factor here is that you aren't being affected by what's happening, negatively affected by what's happening on social media. The media is important. That's why it's important to see fat people in athletic commercials because that is important. You want to feel good when you go out and buy that new yoga set. You want to know that that yoga set is going to feel good and going to do whatever it needs to do for you, which means that you need to see more people out there like you in it. Your media is important. So diversify your media and also don't consume media that is inherently negative. Don't consume media that makes jokes about you being, sad and how that's the butt of the joke and you're always going to be sad. Don't consume that media. Don't consume self-depreciating media. No, don't do that. Immediately scroll past it or on whatever app you can say, I'm not interested in this content. I don't want to see self-depreciating things. I don't want to see depression memes. I don't want to see borderline memes. I don't want to see anxiety memes. I don't want to see that stuff because there's a difference between like relating to something and going, yes, this kind of gives me some sort of resolve. And then this gives me a complex. This gives me negative feelings. There is a difference, and you have to be discerning enough to know the difference. You have to know what you're actually feeling and be in tune with yourself to know this makes me feel like somebody out here gets it, and this makes me feel like sad and really bummed out for this hand I was dealt. And all of this comes down to, it is your responsibility to take your self-esteem in your own hands. It is 100% your job to manage your own self-esteem. It is not your partner's job to manage your self-esteem. It's not your friend's job to manage your self-esteem. When you become an adult, it is not your parents' job to manage your self-esteem. It is 100% your job. I am not saying these people, it's their job to tear it down, okay? And I'm also not saying they can't help you, because they 100% can help you. But it is ultimately up to you to take your self-esteem into your own hands and build it up yourself. Because number one, people aren't your keeper, okay? People are not responsible for you anymore. You are a grown adult. It is your responsibility to take care of yourself, to make yourself flourish, and to get shit done. It is 100% your responsibility. And sometimes I think that we forget that, because none of this is about, forgetting about community, okay? I think community is there to help, there to help build you up. It is there to be a resource, but it's also your job to be a resource for other people too. The community is give and take, and those give and takes aren't 50-50. They change. They fluctuate from 90 to 10. Sometimes it's 70 to 30. Sometimes it's 40 to 60, math, but it is 100% your job to manage yourself and then use everything else as a resource to aid in that. Okay? Because people aren't your keeper. And honestly, you don't want people to be your keeper, because that's how you end up in codependent situation. That's how you end up with somebody that you need, because without them, you are worthless. And I'm not saying you are worthless, but you feel like you are worthless if you do not have them there. If you have somebody in your life that makes you feel like, if they were ever to leave me, then I would have nothing, I would be worthless. Girl, you in a codependent relationship. And I know a thing or two about those, okay? And I will also tell you to check out the book Codependent No More by Melody Beattie. And I will have that link down below, because that book helped me a lot with a lot of my codependent issues. But you are in a codependent situation because people are not your keeper. People are not your parents. They're just not. And even your parents, there's a point when you have to kind of accept the fact that you are the adult now, and you have to take care of you now. And it sucks, because you always want to believe that your parents are going to be there to parent you. And to some degree they are, but also to some degree, it's time for you to parent yourself. Because as a parent, there's a point when you're probably going to know how to parent yourself better than your parents would. And if you don't take your own negative self-talk, if you don't take your own self-esteem into your own hands, unfortunately, you're going to settle in everything. You are just constantly going to settle because you don't know what you're worth. You don't know how amazing and bomb you really are. And you are always going to settle for less than that, because you're always going to think everybody else is better than me, so I should just get and take what I can get and take, and that's it. And we could all be a little bit more discerning about the relationships we have in our lives. And it's not because everybody's bad. It's because a lot of people just aren't matches for everybody. Like, it's just as simple as that. And that does not mean bad. If two people aren't compatible, it doesn't mean something bad is happening there. It just means two people aren't compatible. And I think if we were a little bit more in tune with our own self-esteem, we might have a lot more successful friendships, relationships, maybe even our own familiar relationships will work out a little bit better, because we just accept, man, I don't like you, and that's okay. Or, man, you don't make me feel great, and that's okay. We'll have our own standards, and that's important. That's important in everything. That's important in the jobs that you take, too. Like, you need to be very, very in tune with your own self if you want to get considerably the better or best for yourself. You have to be in tune with that. You have to know just what you have to offer and just what you have to provide. You need to know how bomb you really are, okay? And so let me just give you some practical tools for controlling negative self-talk, okay? So this first one is a little woo-woo, a little, namaste. The white people really have taken this over, but it's positive affirmations, okay? And I know that's something that is such a buzzword right now. It's such a good vibes word right now, but positive affirmations are important. If you don't know your love language, maybe take a little bit of time to discover maybe what your top 3 are. I know that one of my top love language is words of affirmation. And ironically enough, I believe words of affirmation is probably my top love language, because when I was a kid, I don't think I got enough of that. And so positive affirmation for me really, really help. I most of the time will write them down in a journal because for some reason saying things out loud feels a little silly to me sometimes, unless I'm like saying it in a podcasting format. Positive affirmation, saying things to yourself over and over and over again, even if you don't believe it until you believe it. Okay. But even saying things that you do believe that are great about yourself, saying them. And if you are immediately like, well, there's nothing great about me, girl, get a grip. Okay. There are great things about you. And I need you to start saying positive affirmation. Get yourself out of them trenches, because no, there are great things about you. There are great things about everybody. Okay. Stop it. Stop. Actually, that brings us to our next one, which is shutting off negative talk at the source, okay? So that means if you hear one of your friends about to say something negative about themselves, or if they've said something, reframe it immediately. If somebody says, well, I was lazy yesterday, all I did was sit and relax, say something like, were you lazy or were you resting? Like, it's as simple as that, Reframe things that people don't feel bad about themselves. If you feel yourself about to say a self-depreciating joke, stop it if you can. And if you finish the joke, immediately follow it up with something positive, okay? Say something immediately afterwards that is good. And it's going to feel goofy at first because your friends are probably going to be like, bro, what are you doing? Like, you just made a joke. We all agreed. And now you're saying something nice. We don't vibe with that. But number one, then check your friends. Okay. But number two, it's important because that immediately combats that negative thing. And it reminds you, we're not talking like that about ourselves anymore. We're not doing that anymore. You need to stop yourself, because this negative self-talk, it's a pattern. It's a habit. It's something that you indoctrined at you at this point. It is a part of what you do. And if you want to stop something like that, you have to be very proactive and very combative about stopping that. You need to do something that almost is the opposite of that, so you get in the habit of doing something else. And the other thing is, if you have the money and you have the resources, go to therapy. Okay? Please go to therapy. Please go to therapy, because I think so many of you could benefit from it. I definitely needed it for a very long time. Okay. And they've given me some really great, valuable resources that even when I don't have access to therapy, I have tools that can kind of help supplement what I needed in the meantime, and it's just a very helpful thing. I'm not going to preach about therapy too much because honestly, we hear about it all the time. If you can get it, get it. If you can't, I understand, but it is very, very helpful and worth the investment and worth the time. Because also I will say, if you try to get a therapist and it doesn't work for you the first time around, honestly, it's like dating. You kind of have to just keep investing in that time. If your mental health is important enough to you, you have to invest the time and unfortunately the money into making it a priority. So that's that. And then also changing your environment. And once again, I'm not talking about in abuse situations here, but I am talking about if you are in an environment, if you have friends that their whole thing is that they like to just feel bad. Okay. And you'll notice there's a point when you will notice that, man, when I'm around my friends, like the vibe is just down, and you might have good times, but the vibes are just down. It's like a gray cloud. It's just hanging over all of these people. Get new friends or just get away. Take some time to yourself, because your environment dictates everything. We've already covered your home, your community, your media, all of that is shaping your self-esteem. Where you have control, take control and fix that. Change it around, move it around, make little adjustments if you have to in the meantime until you can make the big one. But you need to do something, because staying in those environments is not going to do you any better. You're going to stay in that pit, and that pit is not where you need to be. For years, okay, I told you I grew up basically walking into no self-esteem, okay? I like to pretend. I obviously like to pretend, and I had a lot of self-esteem as a kid, all right? I love to post my little selfies with my duck lips, okay? I like to do all of that, but I was not feeling good. I was willing to accept whatever kind of behavior because that was all I thought I deserved. Okay, so I'm going to be honest, my battery had died, and I don't know where it cut me off at, But it is important that you shape your environment for what you want. The people that you are around are going to influence who you are. And I cannot stress enough how important it is for you to feel empowered to take control of your life. And the things that you want to be and the things that you want to do are possible as long as you take that control and take responsibility for where you maybe lost a bit of that control. And that is my rant. That is everything that I have to say about this topic. It seems like this episode is going to probably be around 30 minutes, which I really would like to get up to an hour. I don't know how I'm not talking enough for an hour. I am a jabberjaws. I have 4-hour-long phone conversation. How is this possible? Maybe I just get nervous in front of the camera. I have no freaking idea. But I hope that you have gained something out of this. If you need any more advice, please make sure that you join the Discord. If you want to see more articles about this, I am actually going to be writing something about love languages for the Patreon and a little bit more about self-negative talk and how I've actually personally combated all of it. And yeah, I feel really, really good. Okay, this feels like a really good project. And yeah. I guess until the next episode, catch us on Mondays. Okay, Mondays are the podcast days. I will talk to you next time. I forgot to create an ending, a goodbye, a sign off. Y'all, help me create a sign off. Also, please join the Patreon so I can get like I'd like to get like a neon heart or something, or like a little sign that says hello, love. Oh, that would be so cute. But first I need a chair. I need a proper chair. This stool is very uncomfortable. Okay, now we're just talking. Until next time, I absolutely love and adore you. Bye.